Insertion in 5 seconds.
Enemy spotted.
You found a bomb. Make your way to its location and defuse it. You must recover the diffuser.
Yeah, boy.
Hi there everyone, I'm the guy with no gamer tag, and today I wanted to talk about Rainbow Six Siege and look at some of my more recent gameplay to discuss one of the things I've started to try and experiment with whilst I've been playing. Now I admit, most people do not want to hear tips from low ranked players, or even players that don't bother going into ranked because they know it will be a shit show. I mean, to be fair, there's only so much you can learn from a player who gets so distracted by getting one kill that they forget about the claymore they saw 10 seconds earlier. But one of the few things I've managed to keep in my arsenal over time is experience, because despite taking regular breaks from the game, having played it in every single season means that I have a good idea of how other players react to certain scenarios, how they use intelligence, and how they will behave in a certain set of circumstances, which is one of the few things I can rely on when I do come back from said breaks. Now, one of the things this can help with assisting is reading into what enemies are doing and how they are actually responding to the match you're playing, like this particular match on Coastline, where on the first round of defense I get droned out and eventually get taken out by a player holding an angle whilst another was following the drone. And this information immediately showed me that this is a coordinated team almost certainly communicating with each other. It's very rare in unranked games that you will see a player who is actively droning for their teammates, so this is clearly a coordinated party of 2 or more players. So what I then decided to do for the next round was play Mozzie and deny them that information. This proved to be very effective in this particular match because they were no longer able to rely on their information gathering, and so it did make the rounds a bit closer. Unfortunately, I then failed to adapt any further, and we did eventually lose the game. And this is one of the more basic interpretations of what you can do with experience in this game. It's something I have actually covered in the channel before. But much like a conservative politician, I'm now going to go a full 180 on this and start to demonstrate the thing that I've been starting to experiment with a little bit more. And that's outdumbing my enemies rather than outsmarting them. Because in year 6 of the game, no matter how much I play, no matter how much I try and find new ways to become better, I am inevitably going to run into a player who simply plays the game more and has more time to dedicate to it and will understand the game in more detail and will be able to read my gameplay much faster and much more accurately than I can read them. And so the best way to counter such players is to subvert their expectations and throw a complete curveball at them, which I have dubbed outdumbing them. Like this particular round from the 2021 Stadium event. I'm playing Mirror in the Armory bomb site. I set up a pretty standard mirror on the double wall, trying to watch the balcony and trying to make sure that it's a little bit difficult for them to breach in. Unfortunately for me though, they have an ace who gets completely cucked by his own gadget, and so big sad for them. But I'm still holding this mirror, I've not been contested on it yet, until all of a sudden the floor below me explodes and I start taking damage. At this point I have to back away from my window, I'm not confident enough to contest this vertical angle. And it's quite clear that this Sophia player has some extra information on me. It takes me a while to work it out, but I find the drone on top of the lockers, and at this point, it's now even footing. The Sophia could still be holding the angle below, but they might have also rotated away. There's now neutral information, and neither of us can really act on anything. And at this point, I was starting to think about what the other player knows. At this point, they know that I'm upstairs, they know that I have a mirror which they have just opened, so that line of sight is completely free. There's a hole in the floor by the reinforcements. Sitting by the reinforcement or sitting behind the half wall is pretty much suicide at this point, so I've either gone into the small office, I'm somewhere by the lockers, or I've even gone to the B bomb site. And so with this thought process in my mind, I then decided to do what was perhaps a much more stupid move, which was to then hold the open mirror. And so having a clear line of sight onto me, but me also being able to shoot anyone that goes onto the balcony. I stood a little bit further back from where the hole in the floor was so they wouldn't get an easy line of sight onto me, and in the end I did manage to take out one of their teammates and our team eventually won the round. Now to be brutally honest, some of this really does come down to luck. It was pretty lucky that when the Sophia did blow up the floor and take shots at me that they weren't able to down me. Had they been able to do so, I would never have been able to pull this off. And a lot of it does actually just come down to confidence as well. Whilst everyone has heard the phrase confidence is king, quite frankly there is nothing quite as powerful as the confidence to do the dumbest thing imaginable and manage to pull it off effectively. And it really is somewhat of a calculated risk. There are some players who will just be too organised and tuned to the game for this to work on. But every now and then, a player might just rely on that game knowledge and that pre-existing expectation of what other players will do. And you can all of a sudden throw in the curveball and just like this, get a round out of nowhere. And what's more, speaking of confidence, it allows you to then also cover up your own mistakes by just playing in the dumbest way imaginable. such as this particular round on Canal, where I'm playing Castle and I'm trying to hold the top floor hatches just to make sure that my team can hold that bomb site a little bit easier. And I've set up my barricades and my rotation hole such that I can quite easily go from one room to the other without worrying about someone holding an angle on me. And the entire plan here is simply just to stop them being able to breach the hatch or stall them for as long as possible. As it is, as Zero decides to vault in from the window after firing one of their cameras, and knowing the weaponry that Zero has, I knew that I was going to be rather outclassed, simply because whilst the UMP is perfectly adequate if you can land headshots, I have come to accept and acknowledge that I'm a bit more of a silhouette artist than a headshot marksman. So I back off, and my intention is to back away, have my guns up in case they decide to aggressively peek me, and then just waddle back through my rotation hole. But being a bit of an idiot and not actually having enough map knowledge to remember exactly where it was, I end up booping my way past it and find myself cowering in a corner. And I decide to instead make the slightly stupider play of actually just staying in this corner. And at this point, there's two main decisions I can make. I can flee or I can stay. The fleeing actually makes more sense in this scenario. It's self-preservation, it means there's more guns at the end of the round. Now I can either do that by destroying the castle barricade or by trying to go back through my rotation. But as it is, I decide to sit in this corner thinking, maybe they won't see me, maybe they won't use their cameras, and hopefully they will think that I'm smarter than I am and that I actually made it through the rotation hole I made for myself about 3 minutes ago. As it is, that seemed to be the case here. The Zero doesn't come and find me, they don't use any of their additional cameras to try and work out where I am, and I'm able to hide in this corner with absolute confidence. I mean, there's only so much confidence you can have carrying a corner hoping a small little drone with a camera on it doesn't drive past. And in the end, it leads me to get an extra kill, which does help our team win this round. And it's this kind of play which I found quite satisfying. It's stupid, it's not going to be useful most of the time, but it's kind of fun when you can use experience of how other players react and try and use the game knowledge you have but maybe can't apply to work out what other players are thinking. What information are they gaining from each maneuver? What are they learning? And how can you do something that they are not expecting from that? It's a fun little thing I've been trying to experiment with. Whilst a lot of this is down to luck, it's down to my enemies making mistakes more than me playing well, it's been really fun. And so I'm pretty sure none of you will carry this any further forwards because you've seen how completely luck-based it is. But that being said, it's one of the fun things about this game. You've got all this destruction, you've got all these unique gadgets, you might as well cause a mess with them. But anyway, I do hope you have enjoyed this video. If you want to chastise me or praise my undisputed genius, feel free to do that in the comment section down below. But anyway, I've been the guy with the gamer tag, and I'll see you on another video.